The warship Verkath Prime hovered over the pale curve of Earth like a vulture, its obsidian hull absorbing sunlight until it seemed carved from the void itself. Inside its command chamber, Supreme Strategist Xylan traced one clawed finger across a holographic map of the planet, expression twisted in mild disgust. "Chemical projectiles," he said, his voice dry as ash. "Primitive toys that rely on explosions to throw bits of metal. Humanity clings to them like children clutching sticks." His officers chittered in agreement, mandibles clicking in synchronized derision. Xylan allowed himself a smile that showed serrated fangs. Victory, he believed, would not just be swift, it would be surgical. Reports streamed in from the surface. The last human stronghold lay in the glacial canyon of Norvik's Fall, an ancient military base buried beneath ice and granite. Energy readings were minimal, weapon signatures negligible. To the aliens' sensors, the place appeared nearly dead. That alone amused Xylan. He had expected one final blaze of human defiance, some grand display of feudal courage. Instead, he found ghosts hiding in the cold. He issued his orders with lazy confidence. Deploy recon drones, sweep the canyon, leave no survivors. Far below, under layers of snow and silence, Sergeant Mara Vance adjusted the focus of her scope until the world contracted into a single point of clarity. Her breath fogged against her mask, dispersing into the icy wind. The sniper's nest she occupied was little more than a hollow carved into a cliff face, but offered the perfect vantage over the valley where alien patrols crawled like ants of metal and light. Her rifle rested steady on its bipod, long, scarred, and archaic by galactic standards. A Gauss-assisted ballistic hybrid, hand-forged from human desperation and precision. Each round inside, it was handcrafted, magnetically stabilized, capable of punching through armor designed to deflect plasma. It wasn't elegant, but it worked, and that was all that mattered. Her spotter, a wiry corporal named Desai, crouched beside her with a compact rangefinder. "Command says the fleet's confident," he muttered through chattering teeth. "They think we're animals throwing rocks." Mara didn't look away from the scope. "Then let's remind them how dangerous rocks can be." The wind shifted, carrying the faint hum of alien machinery. Drones swept the canyon mouth, releasing pulses of ultraviolet light that painted the snow in ghostly hues. She counted 3 patrols, each led by tall, insectoid soldiers encased in segmented armor. They moved with mechanical grace, heads turning in perfect unison. She could almost admire their precision, if it wasn't aimed at exterminating her species. Desai tapped his wrist pad. No signal from high command. Jammers must be up again. "Then we make our own decisions," Mara said. Her tone was calm, but her stomach clenched. They were cut off, possibly the last active unit left. Yet even isolation carried a strange clarity. The mission remained simple: delay the aliens, gather intelligence, survive as long as possible. Humanity didn't need heroes, they needed time. Through the scope, she found a shimmer of an alien command skimmer descending into the canyon. Its engines hissed as it landed on the frozen plain. From its ramp emerged a figure taller than the rest, adorned in metallic robes that gleamed like oil. Xylan himself, perhaps, or one of his lieutenants. The alien's gestures were sharp, contemptuous. Soldiers formed a perimeter while a drone hovered forward, carrying a human rifle, captured from a fallen trooper. The alien examined it, his mandibles twitching in amusement. The weapon was displayed to his troops like a curiosity, a relic of an inferior age. "Recording?" Mara asked. Desai nodded, adjusting his lens. "Got it." The alien raised the rifle as if to demonstrate, pulling the trigger mockingly. The weapon clicked empty. Laughter rippled through the alien ranks, metallic and cruel. Something in Mara's chest hardened. She thought of her brother, lost in the first orbital bombardment, of her home reduced to glass and dust. These invaders considered humanity quaint, dangerous only in theory. They didn't understand the stubbornness woven into human survival, the artistry of violence honed over centuries of necessity. She exhaled slowly, the sound a whisper against the storm. "Range, 2,000 meters," Desai murmured. Mara adjusted her aim by instinct, aligning crosshairs on the alien's chest. She could see every detail, the faint pulse beneath its carapace, the reflection of light in its compound eyes. One shot would be enough, but the timing mattered. Let him laugh a moment longer. Let arrogance peak before it broke. In orbit, Xylan watched through his fleet's live feed, amused by the trivial pageant below. He didn't notice the thin contrail of vapor curling from a distant cliffside or the stillness that preceded the sound. On the ground, the alien commander tilted his head, mandibles parting as if to deliver another remark. Mara's finger tightened on the trigger. Desai whispered, "For Earth." A heartbeat later, thunder rolled across the canyon. The alien skull burst apart in a mist of iridescent fluid. The rifle clattered from twitching claws, and for an instant, the soldiers froze, unable to comprehend what had happened. The sound reached them only after the fact, a sharp, echoing crack that seemed to split the air itself. Mara didn't celebrate. She pulled the bolt, chambered another round, and shifted her scope before the shock could fade. Through the magnification, she saw chaos spreading through the alien formation, drones spinning, sensors flaring uselessly. None of them knew where the shot had come from. Plasma bolts began scorching random cliffs, lighting the snow with unnatural fire. Desai grinned despite the danger. "You just started a war." Mara's expression stayed cold. "No," she said, tracking a new target. "They started it. We're just reminding them how to end one." She adjusted her position, the rifle steady as the wind keened through the canyon. Far above, unseen by either soldier, the alien fleet shifted formation in uneasy confusion. The echo of that single gunshot lingered like prophecy, and somewhere deep in the void, Supreme Strategist Xylan realized his certainty had just been pierced by something far more dangerous than metal. Smoke drifted across the frozen canyon like a living thing, curling through the shattered ranks of the alien soldiers. The single shot that felled their commander still echoed through the communication channels, an impossible event replayed in disbelief. None of their sensors had detected a power discharge, no trace of plasma or magnetic flux. Only a supersonic impact that left a cauterized hole through the skull of a being whose armor was supposed to be invulnerable. Confusion turned quickly to panic, then to rage. Orders were shouted in the harsh clicks of their native tongue, but even their disciplined formations faltered beneath the invisible weight of fear. Something unseen had killed a leader of the Verkath Dominion. It shouldn't have been possible. Mara Vance lay motionless in her hide, every muscle straining against the cold. She had expected them to scatter after the first shot, but their response was faster than predicted. Drones filled the air, spinning beams of violet light through the snow as they triangulated every heat source within a kilometer. She shut down her suit's micro-heater, feeling her body temperature drop to a dangerous level. Frost crept across her visor, and still she kept her scope trained on the chaos below. She needed to see how they adapted. Her pulse was steady, each breath counted and controlled. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. Desai huddled beside her, whispering through clenched teeth. "They're sweeping sectors Alpha to Delta. Another 2 minutes, they'll hit us." "Not if they're blind first," Mara replied softly. She adjusted her rifle, selecting a round etched with pale red markings. It wasn't just a bullet. It was a signal disruptor designed to scatter the frequency of energy-based sensors. She aimed at the nearest drone cluster, compensated for wind drift, and fired. The crack of the rifle split the storm again. A drone erupted midair, its dying signal corrupting the rest of the swarm in a burst of static. For several heartbeats, the alien detection grid went dark. Desai grinned. "Nice shot. Save the praise. Move 10 meters left. Keep the decoy transponder active." They crawled through the snow, careful not to leave visible trails. The camouflage of their thermal cloaks shimmered faintly, blending with the storm. Behind them, plasma fire seared the cliffs where they'd been moments ago. Each blast vaporized snow and stone, turning the air into choking steam. The aliens weren't trying to locate them anymore. They were trying to erase the entire ridge. In orbit, Xylan's image flickered on a command holo within the alien strike base. His eyes glowed with controlled fury. "You will find that sniper," he ordered. "Disassemble every piece of this terrain until she is dust." The surviving lieutenant bowed and obeyed, dispatching heavy walkers and plasma artillery into the canyon. The commander didn't understand, yet that his response only played into Mara's hands. Every large energy surge distorted local magnetics. Every sensor sweep gave her more data. She watched from her perch as the alien formation tightened, overlapping their fields of fire to cover the fallen officer's corpse. The move was predictable. Defensive instincts, not tactical reasoning. She noted the pattern, adjusted her aim again. "They're scared," she murmured. "They're not thinking like hunters anymore." Desai wiped frost from his brow. "And we are. Always." The next shot came slower, calculated with ruthless patience. The round struck the knee joint of a mech walker, shattering its balance servos. It toppled sideways, crushing a squad of infantry beneath its own weight. Plasma tanks ruptured, setting off a chain of violet explosions that bathed the snow in hellish light. Mara exhaled quietly, watching the destruction ripple outward. The sound of alien voices over open comms, frantic, disbelieving, was almost satisfying. Almost. Her mind replayed fragments of the training that had forged her, months of isolation, of learning how to think like the machine she opposed. The sniper's creed wasn't glory. It was patience, calculation, the art of making chaos predictable. Every kill had a purpose. Every silence had weight. Her father used to say that humans built their strength from scarcity. She hadn't understood that until now, lying in the frozen wreckage of what was once Earth, turning simplicity into a weapon. "Ammo check," she whispered. "5 rounds," Desai said, "plus 2 smoke canisters. That's enough." She spotted movement near the Central Command skimmer. Another officer, this one smaller, his armor marked with the glyphs of Intelligence Corps. He barked orders, sending drones to trace bullet trajectories. Smart move. The aliens were learning. Mara respected that. An enemy who adapted was an enemy worth fighting. She shifted her position, crawling backward through a crevice barely wide enough for her shoulders. Desai paused. "You think they'll pull back?" "Not yet. Pride doesn't retreat. Not until it bleeds." Below, the aliens unleashed a new tactic. They flooded the air with ionized mist to expose cloaked units, the static reacting against human tech. Sparks rippled over Mara's armor. They were closing in. She could feel the vibrations through the rock. Her mind raced through options. A frontal escape meant death. A retreat into the canyon floor might buy time, but risk exposure. She made the decision before fear could intervene. "Desai, go East Ridge. If they trace my shots, they'll hit here first." He hesitated. "And you?" "I'll make sure they look the wrong way." Before he could argue, she slid down the slope, using gravity to carry her into a lower ravine. The storm swallowed her silhouette. Her breath burned her throat, lungs fighting the cold. She reached a new vantage point and deployed her final tool, a mirror shard wired to her rifle scope, allowing her to fire from deflection. It was primitive, nearly suicidal, but it would trick their triangulation systems for one more shot. Through the distorted reflection, she sighted the intelligence officer. Her heartbeat slowed, the world narrowing once again. For a moment, there was only wind, snow, and the fragile silence before impact. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet curved through the gale, ricocheting off an ice ridge before striking the alien's cranial plate. The delay between sound and death was nearly poetic. He collapsed without ceremony. Then came the roar of retaliation. Plasma blasts tore the ravine apart. Rocks exploded around her, fragments slicing through her cloak. She rolled behind a ledge, teeth gritted against the shockwave. Her rifle clattered nearby, its barrel scorched but intact. When the firing finally stopped, the canyon lay transformed, blackened craters, glowing slag, silence broken only by the groan of melting ice. Desai's voice crackled faintly through her comms, barely audible. Still alive. Alive, she whispered. Her throat was raw, but her resolve held. She peered through the rising steam toward the alien camp, now half destroyed and leaderless. They were learning fear, and fear was contagious. She chambered another round, the motion fluid, familiar. Let's teach them another lesson. Far above, unseen by her eyes, Xylan watched the latest feed cut to static. The strategist's claws curled against his console. Somewhere in the dark, a human sniper continued to rewrite the laws of his war. The canyon burned like a wound upon the frozen earth. Where once snow had reflected the pale sunlight, now molten glass and scorched stone shimmered in unnatural hues. The air reeked of ozone and alien ichor. Smoke drifted lazily upward, curling around the shattered remnants of alien machinery. Sergeant Mara Vance crouched among the ruins, rifle balanced across her knees, her breath shallow and deliberate. Each inhale tasted of dust and copper. The storm had passed, leaving behind only silence, a silence she didn't trust. Nothing that quiet was ever safe. Desai's voice crackled weakly through her comm unit. They've pulled back to the ridge. Looks like they're regrouping. Mara scanned the horizon through her cracked visor. No, they're recalculating. Every move they've made today has been reaction, not strategy. They'll come again, but slower, smarter. She could almost feel the shift in their behavior. The random panic of the earlier assault had been replaced by methodical precision. The aliens had tasted fear and were dissecting it like scientists studying a contagion. Her rifle hummed faintly as its magnetic coils recharged. She ran a gloved thumb across its side, feeling the etched initials near the trigger guard. LV, her brother's mark. He had built a weapon before dying in the first orbital strike. Every shot she fired carried a fragment of him, of all those who had refused surrender. That memory steadied her, turning exhaustion into resolve. From her vantage point, she could see the alien command skimmer rise once more, this time shielded by overlapping plasma domes. The vessel's hull gleamed with reflective plates, designed to deflect any ballistic trajectory. Around it, smaller drones formed a living curtain of energy. At the center of the formation stood a new commander, armored in black plating that absorbed light rather than reflected it. His movements were slower, deliberate. This one understood the gravity of what hunted him. Desai whispered, "That's their replacement. Probably here to clean up the embarrassment." Mara's lips tightened. "Then let's make sure he's got something worse to report." She adjusted the scope, measuring wind shear through the flicker of rising heat. The alien force was adapting. Shield frequencies fluctuated, drone patrols staggered unpredictably. Each adjustment cost them efficiency. They were trying to anticipate a weapon they couldn't understand, a tactic they couldn't quantify. It made them vulnerable in ways they didn't realize. Overhead, the sky darkened as the orbiting fleet shifted. A low rumble rolled through the atmosphere. Ion drives repositioning for a strike. Xylan was preparing to level the entire region. The strategist's voice carried through the alien's comm network, translated faintly by Mara's receiver. In this anomaly, reduce the sector to elemental vapor. Leave no trace of the primitive. Mara smiled grimly. So much effort for one anomaly. Desai's breath hitched. If they fire from orbit, we're done. Not if they can't target. She glanced at the uplink tower near the skimmer, a spire of alien metal piercing the sky, its dish pulsing with violet light. That was their communication relay, their tether to the fleet. Destroy it, and the orbital strike would lose guidance. But it sat in the open, surrounded by an energy field strong enough to melt any plasma round before impact. She studied it for a long moment, then reached for her last armor-piercing slug. Desai noticed. "That's your final shot." She nodded once. "Then it better count." He hesitated, then extended his hand. "For what it's worth, Sergeant, it's been an honor." She clasped his wrist briefly. "Live long enough to regret it." The wind shifted again, carrying the sharp sting of ionization. She could almost feel the eyes of the alien commander scanning the cliffs, searching for her. Their arrogance had curdled into obsession. Every movement of theirs, every defensive posture, only amplified her advantage. She was not invisible. She was simply unpredictable. Mara positioned the rifle on a fractured ridge, angling the barrel toward the uplink's glowing core. Through the scope, the world narrowed to geometry and timing, distance, wind, thermal distortion, the curvature of the planet itself. She slowed her breathing until the beat of her heart matched the rhythm of the storm. Then, gently, she squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked like thunder. The bullet screamed through layers of atmosphere, its metal jacket igniting briefly as it struck the shield field. For a heartbeat, the energy barrier held. Then it fractured, collapsing inward as the slug tore through the uplink dish. The tower convulsed in a burst of blue-white light, the explosion climbing skyward like a newborn sun. Desai shouted triumph, but his voice was drowned by the shockwave. The alien formation reeled, drones tumbling, command feeds cutting to static. In orbit, the fleet's bombardment systems blinked offline. Without coordinates, their weapons fell silent. Mara's hands trembled as she reloaded, though she knew there was nothing left to fire. The rifle's chamber clicked empty. She set it down and simply watched the aftermath unfold. Below, the alien commander stared up at the burning tower. For the first time, his composure cracked. He barked something guttural, furious, before retreating to his skimmer. The troops followed in disarray. Retreat was not common among the Verkath. The sight of it felt almost holy. Mara exhaled, a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Desai approached her, his movements cautious. "You did it." She shook her head slowly. "We delayed them. That's all." Her gaze lingered on the distant stars where the fleet repositioned, uncertain, broken in formation. They'll be back. But next time, they'll remember this place. The wind carried the faint hiss of melting ice. The battlefield was transforming into water again, as if the planet itself sought to erase the violence. Mara removed her cracked visor, exposing her face to the cold. Her skin burned from frost, but the air tasted clean, alive. Desai lowered his weapon. "Do you think command will hear about this?" "They'll hear the echo," she said softly. "That's enough." For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of cooling metal and the whisper of snow returning to the ground. Mara picked up her rifle one last time, checking the etched initials near the trigger. "Rest easy, little brother," she murmured. They learned. A low rumble from the heavens broke the silence. The alien fleet, unable to communicate, began to retreat beyond the atmosphere. Xylan watched from his flagship, mandibles clenched, his reflection warped in the flicker of the destroyed uplink. He had underestimated the humans once. He would not do so again. Mara turned away from the sky and began the long walk toward the mountains, each step measured and certain. Desai followed without a word. Behind them, the canyon smoked, glowing faintly beneath the clouds like a forge newly stoked. The war wasn't over. It had merely evolved. As the wind swallowed their footprints, Mara glanced back at the horizon where the aliens had fled. "They laughed at our bullets," she whispered. "They won't laugh next time."